Right, Nike. The brand that told us all to just do it. Well, it seems Nike is now just doing somewhere else. Specifically, not in the good old USA as much anymore. Yes, the global sportswear behemoth, an American icon mind you, is packing up significant bits of its operations and shipping them off to Europe and Asia. It's a big move, a massive shift, like your dad deciding to move to Ibiza. Suddenly. This isn't just about finding cheaper rent, oh no. It's a complex saga of global pressures and internal wobbles. Think of it as a corporate midlife crisis, but with more spreadsheets. Nike is fundamentally rethinking its relationship with America, the country where it became a global superstar. This decision involves manufacturing, distribution, and a whole lot of strategy. It's a sign of the times, folks. And the times? They are a-changin', and apparently a-relocating. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy transatlantic ride. Now let's talk about tariffs. Sounds boring, I know, but stick with me because they're a key villain in this piece. The US, in its infinite wisdom, decided to slap new tariffs on European goods. To protect American businesses. That was the idea, but guess what? Europe, not being one to take things lying down, promptly retaliated with its own tariffs on American products. And wouldn't you know it, sportswear was on that list. Surprise! Or, perhaps not so surprising if you've ever seen a trade war. This tit-for-tat tariff tiff has made things rather expensive for Nike. Exporting goods from the US to Europe, a massive market for them, suddenly became a lot pricier, like adding an extra zero to the bill. Imagine trying to sell your trainers when they cost 20% more, just because of some political arm wrestling match. Consumers aren't keen on footing that bill, funnily enough. So, Nike's profit margins started to feel the squeeze, a big, painful, tariff-induced squeeze. This isn't just a minor inconvenience for the company, it's a direct hit to their bottom line, a serious financial OE. When your business model relies on selling things across borders, and those borders suddenly get very expensive to cross, you've got a problem. A very expensive pain, as Nike has clearly discovered. It's not just about the money though, oh no, there's also a distinct whiff of anti-American sentiment in Europe. Yes, some of our friends across the pond are a bit miffed with American foreign policies and political goings-on. This isn't just quiet grumbling over a croissant either, it's translating into a full-blown consumer backlash. A growing movement to boycott American goods, and that, unfortunately for Nike, includes their trainers. This buy European, or perhaps more accurately, don't buy American mood is directly impacting Nike's sales figures in the European market. Imagine trying to sell the American dream, one shoe at a time, when the people you're selling to are actively trying to avoid it. It's like trying to sell ice to Eskimos if the Eskimos thought ice was complicit in some questionable international decisions. This makes for a very tricky sales environment indeed. One where your brand's nationality becomes a liability. Nike, for all its global branding, is still seen as quintessentially American. And when American becomes a dirty word in some markets, that's a problem that no amount of clever marketing can easily fix. Another rather large fly in Nike's American ointment, the increasingly unstable economic and political climate back home. Yes, the good old US of A has been a bit, shall we say, unpredictable. Frequent policy changes impacting international trade don't help. One minute a trade deal is on, the next it's off. Or a new set of regulations appears out of thin air. This kind of uncertainty is absolute poison for big businesses. Companies like Nike crave stability and predictability, not chaos. Imagine trying to plan your global logistics and supply chains when the rules of the game can change with a tweet. It's like playing chess on a board that randomly tilts and occasionally bursts into flames. Fun for no one. This has prompted many companies, not just Nike, to look elsewhere, to seek out business environments that are a bit more, well, boring. In a good way, predictably boring. Europe and Asia are increasingly seen as offering that. These regions are perceived to have more predictable regulatory landscapes. Section 5. New kicks at the top, a fresh boss for a faltering brand. Now, it wasn't just external storms battering Nike. There was plenty of drama happening inside their own house too. Let's talk leadership, or the lack thereof, some might say. John Donahoe, who had been CEO since 2020, found himself unceremoniously ousted from the top job. Why? Well, reports suggest his tenure was a bit of a misstep. He was accused of making Nike uncool, a cardinal sin, and damaging vital relationships with retail partners and loyal fans. Donahoe's strategy apparently involved an overemphasis on direct-to-consumer sales, cutting out the traditional brick-and-mortar shops that built the brand. This didn't go down well with retailers, unsurprisingly, and some fans felt alienated by the shift. It's like your favorite pub suddenly deciding it only does takeaways. And the takeaways are a bit rubbish. The magic, it seems, was getting lost in the corporate shuffle, leading to a brand that felt less connected, more transactional. So, out went Donahoe, and in came Elliott Hill, appointed as the new CEO from October 14, 2024. Mr. Hill has a rather hefty to-do list, as you can imagine. His main mission to refresh the Nike brand, to mend those broken bridges with retailers, to cut back on the endless discounting that was cheapening the swoosh. Section 6. Coolness Crisis, Nike's stumble from icon to also-ran. Under Donahoe's watch, Nike's financial performance took a nosedive. It wasn't pretty. In fact, it was historically ugly. Nike's stock experienced its worst day ever on June 28, 2024, plummeting a staggering 20% in a single day. Ouch. This came after a truly disappointing fiscal fourth-quarter earnings report. The company also had to slash its full-year guidance and warn of a painful 10% sales drop in the first quarter of fiscal 25. That's not just a blip, that's a full-blown financial panic attack. A major culprit? The brand seemed to be losing its legendary cool factor. Yes, Nike, the epitome of cool for decades, was looking a bit naff. Excessive discounting on its own website diluted the brand's premium image. If you can get it cheap all the time, is it still special? The marketing also seemed to misfire. A new campaign, rather gloomily titled "Winning Isn't for Everyone," bombed. Which, you have to admit, isn't exactly the inspiring message you expect from the just do it people. Then there was the issue of innovation, or the perceived lack of it. Section 7. The Great Escape. Why overseas looks so appealing? So, with all these headaches, tariffs, boycotts, instability, internal woes, what's Nike's grand plan? Relocate, relocate, relocate. The primary aim of moving significant operations to Europe and Asia is to staunch the financial bleeding and get back on track. It's about mitigating the crippling impact of those US-EU tariffs. If you make the shoes in Europe, for Europe, those tariffs largely vanish. Magic. Or, just sensible international business structuring. It's also about reducing overall operational costs. Beyond just dodging tariffs, there's the allure of better market access. Europe and Asia are not just places to make things cheaper, they are colossal, vibrant consumer markets in their own right. Being physically closer to these customers has huge advantages. You can respond more quickly to local trends and demands, you can tailor your products more effectively, and you can reduce those lengthy, costly global supply chains, which, as we've all learned recently, can be incredibly fragile. This move is also a clear attempt to get away from the perceived instability of the US economic and political environment. Companies crave certainty. They need to plan years in advance. If your home base feels like a roller coaster, you look for smoother rides. Section 8. Greener Pastures and Local Love. Nike's new global game plan. It's not all about doom, gloom, and escaping tariffs, though. Nike is also trying to paint this move in a more positive light, focusing on two big buzzwords: sustainability and local alignment. The company says it wants to leverage Europe and Asia's strengths in advanced infrastructure and policies that support sustainable manufacturing. This is a smart PR move, of course, but it also aligns with a genuine global trend towards greener business. And Nike has made noises about its long-term environmental goals. By setting up new modern operations in these regions, Nike claims it can reduce its carbon footprint and push forward with more eco-friendly products and processes. Europe, in particular, is often ahead of the curve when it comes to environmental regulations and green technology. Section 9. The aftermath: what Nike's Adieu means for America and its own future. So, what are the broader ripples from this rather large stone that Nike has just chucked into the global pond? Well, for the US economy, it's not exactly brilliant news. When a company of Nike's stature shifts operations overseas, it inevitably means a potential loss of American jobs, particularly in manufacturing and distribution sectors. It also signals a shift in investment focus away from the US, which could have knock-on effects for suppliers and local economies. This move by Nike could also be a canary in the coal mine. Are other major American corporations feeling similar pressures? Will we see more iconic US brands looking for greener pastures abroad? If the domestic climate of tariffs, political uncertainty, and rising costs persists, It's a very real possibility. A worrying one for American industry. It underscores the interconnectedness of global trade and how domestic policies can have far-reaching, unintended consequences, even for the biggest players on the world stage. For Nike itself, this strategic relocation is a massive gamble, but one it clearly feels it has to take. The aim is to strengthen its global presence and claw back market share,